Good morning, Ruben. You're still muted.
Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
Harvey, you
Yeah,
there,
I'm in.
Ruben? All right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in.
Morning.
Okay. Good morning. All right. Okay, I will start with our learning sponsors and then we'll go into the DAF. A year of learning by Sue and Ani Gerlich, and Henry Malka Proman and Philip Mann. Yeshua David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henny Rivka Pro Rosna bat Arav Tzvi Hirsch. And family memory, and in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Evel Bas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gidler, Avram Meir ben Shimon and Martha Gidler, Sharna Bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova Bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher. Friends of Nina Moynester, Nechama Asna Bat Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezecha Nishmat, Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. Have a month of learning by Stanley Presser, in memory of his mother-in-law, Golda Bas Liber, his mother, Leah Bas Yehuda, and his wife, Rachel Mincha Bas Moshe. Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her father, Yehoshua Shia ben Moshe Yehuda HaKohen. David and Sharon Carpel, in memory of his father, Zeb Moshe ben Shlomo Yaakov. Bee Pizer, in memory of her mother, Rezel Bat Shammai. Also have a month of learning in honor of Rosalind Greenberg Haskell's special birthday by Grace and Julius Rosenzweig's Aleha Shalom children, Barbara Rottenberg, Ann Berezin, Judy Friedman, and Alan Rosenzweig. Also, we have a week of learning by Judy Schiff in memory of her mother, Chaya Chava Bas Menachem Mendel. Today is a day of learning, February 1st. We have none. And so therefore, may Neshamas have an aliyah, cranker of field, Velti, Yeshiva, Shem, Atzliya, Mechol B'nai Israel, a good Gaben Shtia. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to go back real quick to the bottom of Yud Tet Amud Beis. Okay. Right. So where we saw the Gemara said about a line or two before the bottom. That was the question that Zev had raised in the shir yesterday. Okay, Monech Hamisha Yamim Achar Haregel. Okay, that he must count. In other words, he did not finish the 3, and therefore he has to include and go over, okay, to 5 after the holiday. Okay, others do his work, and his servants, if he has servants, and do it in private in his home. No. Ve'en rabim mitaskin bo. And here's the clincher as we go over to the new Amud. And the community does not become involved with him. In other words, the question is they don't do Nichum Avim. Right? So now we're on the top of Kaf, today's daf. Okay? Shekfar nit askubo, because they already, okay, we're doing Nichum Avelim, all right? Klalo shel davar, says the Gemara, kol shehu mishum avel, regel mafsiko. Regarding any aspect of Avelus, it would seem, the holiday makes a break, right? The kol shehu mishum iske rabim, but in regards to the involvement of the community, okay, being and Menachem Avelim, ein regel mafsiko. So there, the holiday does not make a break, okay, and we referred to that briefly yesterday, that if there are situations where afterwards an individual, you see somebody that you knew had somebody pass away, and even if it's a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, okay, the situation is you can still be Menachem Avelim. Kivro shlosha yamim b'sof haregel. Here's our new material, okay? That he buried them when? Shlosha yamim b'sof haregel, okay? At the end of the holiday, okay? All right? Okay, it's still during Chol HaMoed, right? Moneh shiva achar haregel. Okay, clearly the Gemara is telling us he doesn't begin his shiva until after the holiday, right? Arba'a yamim harishonim. Okay, the first 4 days. Harabim mitaskim bo. Community becomes involved with him. In other words, Menachem Avelim. Okay, shlosha yamim ha'acharanim. Okay, the latter 3 days. Okay, ein rabim mitaskim bo. Okay, the community does not necessarily have to be Menachem Avelim. Why? Shekvar nitasku baregel ubaregel ole lo. Okay, because they could have come and been Menachem Avelim on the holiday itself. Okay, even though the niftar was during Chol HaMoed, they can be Menachem Avelim on Yom Tov. Right? Okay. What does he sit on?
Regular chair.
Regular chair.
You should sit on a regular chair. So where's the meaning of Avelis? How do we know?
Where's the what?
Where's the Simon that he has? He's on.
How did you know? Because you heard his father die.
Excuse me, I'm asking.
Okay, what happens is they don't sit officially during Chol HaMoed, okay, and they begin the Avelis after Chol HaMoed.
I understand.
Okay.
You're telling me it could be not-
So on Yom Tov, he may sit on a regular chair. How long is Yom Tov? 1 day in Eretz Yisrael, maybe 2 days. Then he goes back to sitting. Then he starts official sitting. But the Gemara just told us the 4 days after Yom Tov, okay, people can be Menachem Avelim. So during those, so if it's the 1 or 2 days, they see him sitting on a regular chair. The rest of the time afterwards of that 2 or 3 days, he's sitting as he should be, as an Avel.
For the 7 days.
No, the death occurred during Chol HaMoed. During Chol HaMoed. When? On let's say the 4th day of Chol HaMoed. Okay? So he doesn't observe the 5th day. He doesn't observe Avelis the 6th day.
So in other words,
Okay.
the Avelis is Syria, not the fresh.
No, not at
No.
all.
No, he's not observing any Avelis during Chol HaMoed.
So you're telling me you need Menachem Avelim.
On the Yom Tov.
Or on Chol HaMoed.
No, it doesn't say it on the
Yes,
Chol
it does.
HaMoed.
It said if it's 3 days, you count the 4 after, because those 3 days people visit.
The 4
Read the
days.
words.
That's for visiting, that's for Menachem.
It says Shloshi Yomi Acharanim Ein Rabim Nisakim. Both the
Right.
last 3 days of Avail is not. Why?
Of the 7.
Not
of the
Haskell
7.
Regel, because they have visited him already.
Great, he
during
had the
Chol
Rosh,
HaMoed
he had the Yontif and the others.
1 day of Chol HaMoed, the 2 days of Yom Tov, that's 3. Plus the 4 that he was sitting on Avelis.
That's
on the
7.
7 after
No.
Yom Tov.
Yes.
So he had for the people, the Menachem Avelim, they have a total of 7 days. For him, he has to,
No,
as
that's
the
for
Gemara said, the
comforting the
rule
uncle.
is,
That's for
rule
comforting
is
the
that
uncle.
during the Yom Tov, the regel is mafsik avelis for him.
Right.
But for the people.
They can come and,
It's not mafsik.
right, on the Yom Tov.
And
Does-
Chol Hamoed.
If on Yom Tov
That's how you
someone-
get 7 days.
But that's 7 days of Menachem Avos.
That's 7 days from Menachem Avos.
Right.
Correct, including the Yom Chol Hamoed.
But
and
not-
Yom Tov.
Right, right, but not
So
for
gee,
him.
I heard your
10 days
father
beyond the
died, I'm
burial.
very sorry.
Right.
When
Right.
the guy's sitting on a chair.
That's when he's sitting on a regular chair.
Okay.
Okay.
We don't act that way nowadays?
No.
No, we're not.
And we wait till we go after.
Right. We don't do any.
But if you do see him, you can.
You can
express
still
your
expend the condolence.
commiseration.
Right. Okay, so what happens? Shekfar nitasku beregel, all right? Beregel olet lo. Okay, that the holiday that they already were menachem on the regel, and the regel is included in that
Shloshim.
time period,
Here, the regular is included
in the
Shloshim.
later, right? Now, my lava seifa, isn't that on the end of Braita? Okay, on the burial during the holiday? Lo, says the Gemara, Aresha. It's when the situation when the burial was before the holiday. Okay? Eitive. And we'll challenge that. Regel olelo leminyan shloshim. Now the Gemara tells us that the holiday, therefore, okay, in that case, is considered part of the shloshim. Ketzad, how is that possible? Kavru b'tchilat haregel. Okay, if they buried him at the beginning of the festival, of the holiday period. Moneh shiv'a achar haregel. Says that he therefore counts 7 after the holiday. Umlachtone eseit al yedei acherim. And his work is done by others. Okay? Ve'avadav v'shifchotav osin b'tzin'ah b'toch beito. Okay, and the servants, right, do it privately in his home. Ve'ein rabim mitaskim bo. And the community does not be menachem avel then. Shekvar nitasku bo beregel v'regel olelo. Okay, that they already began
They visited him
between
during
the
the.
colony. Okay, all right. I'm going to go back and look at it again. We'll see. Tiyuvta, that seems to be a proof text. Okay, ki ata Ravin, when Ravin came, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, afilu kavro ba regel, even if they buried him when ba regel, during the holiday. Okay, in other words, on Chol Hamoed. Okay, v'chein ore le Rabbi Eliezer the Rabbi Padat Berei, and so was taught. I'm going to say by Rabbi Eliezer to his son Rabbi Padat, afilu kavro. Okay, beregel, even if he buried him during the holiday. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan.
As far as the shloshim is concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The regel always counts towards the shloshim.
Shloshim, that's what we said. Okay, now Kiyem. So at that point, we're going to stop for a moment, and they dealt with this issue of burial during, burial before. Okay, when they can do be Menachem Avel. Okay, all right. As I said, I will go back and look at it because having looked at both Art Scroll and Koren, I wasn't convinced of that other aspect. Okay, we now get to a new theme, which is Kfiyat Hamita, the turning over the bed. Okay, right? Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita. Kiem Kfiyat Hamita Shlosha Yamim Kodem Haregel. If he carried out the practice of turning over the bed 3 days before the start of the holiday, Eino tzarich lechafota achar haregel. He does not have to turn it over after the holiday. Okay? Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That's the view of Rabbi Eliezer. Now, just briefly, that would seem to imply, again, that he himself does not follow any practices of Avelut during Chol HaMoed. Okay, since he did it at least the minimum of the 3 beforehand, that's why he doesn't have to do it again after the holiday, but he certainly doesn't do it during the Chol HaMoed. Okay, now let's go on. The Chachamim Omrim, but the sages say, Afilu Yom Echad va'afilu Sha'a Echad. Even one day, even 1 hour. Okay, now what we see here is, it would seem from this statement that the Chachamim do hold by Miktsas Hayom Kekulo in this case, right? Now, what happens? Amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, Hein Divrei Beit Shammai. These are the words of Beit Shammai, which about the 3 days that are required. Hein divrei Beit day 1 hour, that must be Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai omrim shlosha yamim, and then the Gemara spells it out. That Beit Shammai says it's 3 days. Beit Hillel omrim afilu yom echad, and Beit Hillel says even 1 day. Now, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Va'amrela, and others say, Amar le Rabbi Yochanan le Rabbi Chia bar Abba le Rav Huna. He said it to the following: Afilu yom echad, afilu sha'a achad. Even 1 day, even 1 hour. Okay. Now, Rava Amar, what did he say? Halacha ketana didan, the Amar shlosha. According to Rava, the law is like, in this case, Beit Shammai, who says it's 3. Ravina ikle lesurad prat. Ravina happened to come to the city of Surah, the Ravina, and Rav Chaviva, we'll call him the local Marada Asra for the moment, in Surah, okay, says to Ravina, Hilchata mai, what is the law in this case? Amarle, afilu yom echad va'afilu sha'a achad. 1 hour of even 1 day. So he's Ravina Paskins, not as Rav did, but rather as we saw Beish Hillel did. Okay, now, again, a new piece in our Gemara. Yativ Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Rabbi Chia bar Abba was sitting with Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Okay, and what happened? Where were they sitting? Akil'a, the Rabbi Yitzchak ben Eliezer. They were sitting in the pavilion or the porch or whatever, okay, of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Eliezer. Nafak milta mibenayim. And a devar, some learning was shared among them. Minayin la'avelut shiva. What? Dichtiv, as it's written, v'hafachti chagechem la'eva. Because I've changed your holiday into mourning. Machag shiva, the same way we have a holiday that we said is 7 days, Pesach, Sukkot, right? And remember we said earlier that in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, even Shavuos, because you could bring korbanos the following days, it was considered parallel to 7 as well, okay? So that's the model, right? So what happens? V'afachtem chagechem la'evel, machag shiva, avelut shiva. Now, I'm using the word chag here in general as opposed to just sukkos, okay, in this case, right, because of the parallel of the 3, all right? Ve'ema atzeret, now we have the Shaila ask, but what about Shavuos? When we don't have the Beis Hamikdash, when we can't bring karbanos, and therefore it's not considered like 7 like the others, it's only considered 1 in Eretz Yisrael, right? Dechad Yoma, because it's 1 day. right? Hahumi bayele the Kedaresh Lakish. Here we need it as was required by Reish Lakish. The Amar Reish Lakish Mishum Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, as Reish Lakish said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, Ninayan Lishmua Rechoka. How do we know when it is, I'm going to use the word distant knowledge of passing, okay? She'ena noheget elayom echad, that there's only one day to be observed. And the Gemara in a moment is going to define what's the difference between distant knowledge and close knowledge. Okay? Dichtiv, because it's written, V'hafachti chagechem la'ev. I've changed your holiday to mourning. V'ishkachan atzeret, de'ikre chad yoma chag. And we find that atzeret, okay, even when, I'm going to say, even when it's only a single day, is still called a chag, right? Tanu Rabbanan, says the bright. Shmua krova noheget shiva ushloshim. But when it's close news of the death, okay, one still observes full 7 and 30. So the Gemara says, Shmua rechoka eino noheget ele yom echad. When it's distant news of the death, one only observes one day. Ezo hi krova ve'ezo hi rechoka. So what then is close news and what is distant news? Krova betoch shloshim. Near or close news is when one is informed of the death within 30 days of the past. Rechoka, distant, is when one is informed la'achar shloshim, after 30 days. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. That's the view of Rabbi Akiva. V'chachamim omrim, and the sages say, echad shmu'a krova ve'echad shmu'a rechoka. Noheget shiv'a ushloshim. Whether it is distant news or close news, one still should be observing Shiva and Shloshim. Okay? Now, Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Kol makom she'ata motzeh yachid mekil v'rabim machmirim, every place that you find a single opinion as lenient and the majority are stringent, okay? Halakha karabim, the law is like the majority, chutz mizo, with this unique exception. She'afa pi she'Rebbi Akiva makil b'chachamim machmirim, that even though Rabbi Akiva is lenient and the sages are stringent, halakha k'Rabbi Akiva, the law is like Rabbi Akiva. The Amar Shmuel, halakha k'divrei hamakil ba'avel. That as Shmuel says, the law is like the one who presents a leniency, okay, in Avelis. Now, let's go on. Rav Chanina, Achele Shmua da'avuha mibei Chozai. Rabbi Chanina heard, and I'm going to say that it's distant, even though the Gemara doesn't say Shmua Rechoka, okay? Distant news about his father passing from Bei Chozai. Ata lekame de Rav Chisda. He came before Rav Chisda, Amarle, and said to him, and this is how we know, okay? Shmua Rechoka eino noheget ele yom echad. That's how, even though the Gemara didn't say initially Shmua Rechoka, his answer telling him that it was distant news clarifies that that is the practice. One day. Further statement, Rav Natan bar Ami, atale Shmua de Ime mi Bei Chozai. Rav Natan heard also distant news about the passing of his mother from Bei Chozai. Atale Kame de Rava. And he came before Rava Amarle and said to him, Hare Amru Shmua Rechoka, Eina Noheget Ele Yom Echad Bilvad. Here they say that distant news of a passing, one only carries out a single day. Eitive. But I'll challenge this with the bright. Bamed Varim Amurim. What are we talking about? B'chamisha Metei Mitzvah. About the other 5 family members that one has a mitzvah, the requirement, the obligation to mourn the son, the daughter, the brother, the sister, the spouse. Okay? Aval al aviv al imo. But when it's in regard to a father or a mother, shiv'a u'shloshim, according to this, shiva and shloshim. Amarle, he said to him, yichida, that's an individual view. Velo sevira lan kavate, and we do not hold by his view. The Tanya, as taught elsewhere, ma'aseh umet aviv shel Rabbi Tzadok beginzak. All right, a situation occurred where the father of Rabbi Tzadok passed away in the town, the city of Ginzak. Va'odiuhu la'achar shalosh shanim, and they informed him after 3 years. Uba v'sha'al et Elisha ben Abuya. Okay, look who's answering the answer here. And they asked Elisha ben Abuya, Uzkenim she'imo, and the sages that were along with him. This was before Elisha ben Abuya went off the derech, right? Okay. Va'amru nahog shiva u'shloshim. They said, observe 7 and shloshim. Uk'shemet beno shel Rabbi Yechia begola. And when the son of Rabbi Yechia died in the diaspora, Yeshav alav shiva u'shloshim. There he sat shiva and shloshim, which again seems to contradict that it's A, only one day, or B, that only applies to certain family members. Aini, is that the case? Vahat Rav bar Achva, the Rabbi Chia. But Rav, who was the brother, the nephew of Rabbi Chia, all right? Dahava bar Achte, the Rabbi Chia, and he was also the son of the sister of Rabbi Chia. Ki salik lahatam amarle. Okay, when he came there, okay, and he saw him and he asked him, Abba Kayam, is father alive? Amarle, he said to him, Ima Kayemet, is mother alive? Amarle, Ima Kayemet, he said to him, is mother alive? Amarle, Abba Kayam, is father alive? And if you have Koren, you'll see, I don't know if Art Scroll did it, I didn't see, but Koren has a whole genealogical tree there, all right? Okay, of how it was possible that it was one, and then it was a second marriage with a stepdaughter, and one from the first marriage married from the stepdaughter in the second marriage, and that's how he could be, okay, they both have one and be his father and one be his mother. Okay. Amarle l'shamle, said to her servant, Chalotz li min ale, remove my shoes, v'holech acharai kli lebeit hamerchatz, and afterwards bring my garments to the wash house, to the bathhouse. In other words, he took off his shoes for a short period of time to show Avelis, and then afterwards he went ahead, since it said even 1 hour would be sufficient, then he went to bathe. Okay. Shma mina tlat. From this we learn 3 things. Shma mina avel asur b'ni'ilat hasandal, that the mourner is prohibited in wearing a footwear of leather. Ushma mina shmua rechoka eina noheget ele yom echad. And we learn from this that one distant news of the death, okay, one only observes one day. Ushmamina miktzat hayom kekulo. And we learn from this that part of the day is like the entire day. Okay. Rabbi Chia lechud. Okay. Rabbi Achia lechud. Okay, so Rabbi Achia one, and Rabbi Achia lechud is a different one. In other words, we shouldn't mix up the fact that we have a Rabbi Chia and elsewhere we have a Rabbi Achia. They're not the same person. They're two different people. Okay, new piece from our Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Avini says, Shama shmua krova beregel. Okay, if he heard the close news on the holiday or during the holiday, ulamotze'ei haregel ne'eset v'choka. But by the time the holiday is over, it's become distant news. So what does he do? Right? Ole lo ve'eno noheg ele yom echad. Okay, it is included for him, in other words, the holiday, and he only observes the distant news one day. Tani Rabbi Ada, the Min Kizari, Kami the Rabbi Yochanan. And Rabbi Ada from Caesarea said, taught before Rabbi Yochanan, Shama Shmua Krova b'Shabbat. If one heard, okay, recent passing on Shabbos, ulemotzei Shabbat ne'aseit v'choka. And by the time Shabbos is over, it is distant news. Eino noheg ele yom echad. Okay, he only observes one day. Korea, eino Korea, asks the Gemara. Does he tear garments or doesn't he tear garments? Rabbi Mani Omer says, Rabbi Mani eino Korea. He does not tear garments. Rabbi Chanina Amar Korea. And Rabbi Chanina disagrees and says he does tear garments. Amar le Rabbi Mani, the Rabbi Chanina. And so Rabbi Mani says to him, Bishlema ledidi. It's understandable regarding my view. Da'amina eino Korea. Because I believe that one doesn't tear the garment. Why? Hainu delo ika avelut shiva. Why? Because he doesn't have a complete avelus of 7 days. Elaladidach. But according to you, the amart Korea kriya below shiva mi ika, that you say he does tear the garment. Okay. Do we do that when we don't have a full 7-day mourning? Velo, and not Vahatanya, he says. Isi avua the Rabbi Zera. Isi, the father of Rabbi Zera. Va'amrela achva, the Rabbi Zera. Kame, the Rabbi Zera. Others say he was the brother of Rabbi Zera before Rabbi Zera. Mi she'en lo chaluk l'kroa, one who does not have a tunic or a garment to tear. V'nizdamin lo b'toch shiva, and he happens to acquire such a garment during the Shiva period. Korea, he does tear it. La'achar Shiva, after 7, ain't no Korea. He does not tear. So what happens? Ani Rabbi Zera Batre, and Rabbi Zera answered after him, Bamed Varim Amurim. What are we talking about? If it's regarding the other 5 family members that one has a mitzvah to mourn. Aval al aviv al imo. But in regards to his father or his mother, Korea v'holech. He tears and then he goes on from there. He continues his avelus. Kitanya hahi lichlod aviv v'imo. And that was taught, okay, because of the respect for his father and his mother. Okay. a new piece from the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan says a bright. Kol ha'amur b'parashat Kohanim, all that which is said in regarding the, let's call it section, okay, that regarding Kohanim, shekohen mitamei lahem, that a Kohen can become impure regarding them, avel mitabel aleihen, a mourner must mourn for them. Ve'eluhen, and these are as follows: Ishto, his wife; Aviv, his father; Ve'imo, his mother; Achiv, his brother; Va'achoto, his sister; Beno, his son; Ubito, his daughter. Hosifu aleihen, and they added of them, Achiv va'achoto habitula me'imo. Okay, I'm going to phrase it, his brother and sister, okay, who are unmarried, might be a way of putting it, okay, through his mother. Va'achoto, okay, Nisu'ah, and his married sister, Bein me'eviv, bein me'imo, whether it is his from his father or his mother. Okay? So we might ask just a quick question. I'm not going to go into it. Okay. All right, then you can see there's a couple of Tosafot on this stuff, but in other words, why we say in some cases a non-married sibling, and in other cases we say because that's brother or sister, whereas a married sibling, it's only the sister. Okay? It could be that that the implication is that it's a more direct relative. I don't know if it would be half. Okay.
They have the same mother, but
they have the same mother, but they could have different fathers. Right. Okay. Ukashem shemitabel aleihen, kach mitabel al shniim shelahem. Now the Gemara tells us the same way one mourns for them, one mourns for the second degree relative that follows them. So what does that mean? Divrei Rabbi Akiva. That's the view of Rabbi Akiva. We're going to see the Gemara clarifying. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, he says, Eino mitabel ela al ben beno. He doesn't mourn except for his, in this case, ben beno, in other words, the grandson, va'al aviv, or his grandfather. Okay? V'chachamim omrim, but the sages say, kol shemitabel alav, mitabel imo. Okay, all who mourn with one, mourns along with one. Okay, I'm going to explain that in just a second. Chachamim hainu tanakama. If that's the case, the sages then are saying the same thing as Tanakama. So what does that mean? With whom do you mourn? Ika beinaihu, imo babayit. What is the difference between Tanakama and the sages? It is that the sages are saying you mourn with that person when you're in their presence, share the same household. Kiha the Amale Rav Lechia Berei, as that which was said by Rav to Chia his son, V'chein Amarle Rav Huna, the Rabba Berei, and as was said by Rav Huna to Rabbah his son, Ba'apa, okay, Nachug Aviluta, in her face. In other words, when your wife's parent dies, then you observe Avelus, okay, with her. Below apa, not in her face, not in her presence. Lo tinhog aviluta. One then does not need to carry out Avelus. Mar ukva, bar Chamuha. One time, Mar Ukva, okay, that had a death of the son of his father-in-law, which would mean his brother-in-law, passed away. Savar lemetav alei shiv'a ushloshim, and he thought to sit 37. Al Rav Huna legabe ishkachei. Rav Huna came to him, okay, and he found him. Amarle, and he said to him, Sud naita ba'it lemecha, the mourner's meal. In other words, the appropriate food eaten as a mourner. Okay, do you think that's necessary to eat? Lo amru lechavod ishto elechamav v'chamoto. They did not say that one does it in respect for his wife, except his father or his mother, his father-in-law or his mother-in-law. The Tanya, as was taught, Misha made chamav o chamoto. If his father-in-law or mother-in-law passed, Eino rashai lokofet ishto liot kochelet v'liot pokeset. Okay, he is not, I'm going to say, permitted to force his wife to wear eye makeup or to put on rouge. Okay, Ela kofeh mitato v'noheg ima avelut. But rather, he also turns over his bed and practices avelus with her. V'chein he shemet chamer o chamota, and likewise her, if it's the death of her father-in-law or her mother-in-law. Eino risha'ah liot kochelet v'liot pokeset. She is not permitted to put on eye makeup or rouge. Ela kofem mitata v'noheget imo avelut. But she turns over her bed, and practices with him, okay, avelut. V'tanya ida. And now we have another bright that teaches as follows. Afal pi sha'amru eino rashai lakufet ishto liot kochelet v'liot pokeset. Even though it says we're not permitted to force her to wear eye makeup, rouge, be'emet amru, in truth what they said, mozeget lo et kos hakos, that she pours him his cup, umatzat lo mita, and she prepares his bed, umarchetzet lo panav yada v'ragla, and she can wash his face, hands, and legs. In other words, these were all considered to be acts of affection. Kashin ahadade. These seem problematic, these two statements, that she can do things in one way that make her continue their sense of affection. But on the other hand, it says, no, she cannot put on makeup or things like that. That also are aspects of affection. Ela lav shmamina, but don't we learn from this? Kan b'chama v'chamoto. In one case, we're talking with regards to her father-in-law and mother-in-law. Kan b'sha'ar krovim shmamina. And in the other, in terms of other family members, indeed we learn that. Tanya nami hachi, and we learn another Braita as follows. Lo amru lechvod ishto, ela chamav chamachamoto bilvad. We didn't say that it was only regarding the honor of his wife, referring to the father-in-law and mother-in-law only. Amemar shchiv le bar berei. And now another brief story. Amemar had the loss of his grandson, Kara Eluye, and he tore garments regarding him. Ata Bre, Kara Ba'ape. Along came his son, and he tore along with him. Itkar, the Miyushav Kara. He remembered a memor, that he had torn the garment while sitting. Okay, Kam karam umad. He got up and tore the garments further. Amarle Rav Ashi, the Amemra. And Rav Ashi says to Amema, Kriya de Umad Minalan, performing the act of Kriya while standing. Excuse me, what's the basis? Dichtiv, as it says, Vayakam Iyov Vayikra et Me'ilav. That Iyov stood and he tore his garment. Okay, and we're just on the Ella Me'ata, I'm just on the top. All right, Va'amad Va'amalo Chafatzti Lekachta. Okay, Hachanami, etc. That's where we'll pick up tomorrow on the top of Kaf Aleph. Okay.
Yes.
Right. I'm not arguing if they're giving us another day. All right.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Rabbi.
I want to check, make that note.
There's a vineyard up there that wasn't finished by, 8:30.
Yeah. Well, I'm concerned, where is Marvin and where is Mel this morning? What? Yeah,
Mel, I don't know. I don't remember if I saw him.
Mel, neither Mel nor Marvin were in show. Okay, now Mel might have had or his wife may have had a doctor's appointment. I know he tends sometimes to have them in the
The
morning.
chauffeur left early. That's another problem.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you have another.
Yeah, that's something to do.
Okay.
But I want to get back to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it talks about that the Galvin was stabbed the whole week in Wilmington, according to the members of the zone.